Clear skies, perfect wind, experienced jumpers. What should have been routine turned into horror in seconds. These are 6 final skydives, moments of thrill that became the last anyone would ever see. The noise of the plane faded into a rush of wind as the jump light turned green. For the skydivers aboard, it was the moment they lived for. Among them was 20-year-old Stephen Hilder, a skilled British parachutist and a member of the Skydive Drive team. It was the summer of 2003, and Stephen was participating in a major skydiving event at Hibblestow Airfield in North Lincolnshire. The team had already completed several jumps that weekend, performing group formations and precision dives. In the afternoon, July 4th, 2003, Stephen prepared for another jump with 2 of his teammates. Everything looked fine, and the weather, though partly cloudy, was suitable for the dive. As the aircraft climbed to around 13,000 feet, the 3-man team readied themselves at the open door. The jump light flicked green, and one by one they leapt into the sky, their bodies cutting through the wind as they began their freefall. For the first several seconds, everything went smoothly. The team performed their planned formation, maintaining perfect synchronization as they descended towards the earth. Then, something went terribly wrong. As the others deployed their parachutes, Stephen's main parachute failed to open correctly. With the altitude dropping fast, he reached for his reserve parachute, but it failed as well. Due to the cloud, no one on the ground or in the air immediately realized what had happened. The team's videographer lost sight of Stephen in the clouds, assuming he had drifted off course. Only minutes later, observers noticed a disturbance in a nearby cornfield, where jumpers who missed the landing zone often ended up. When the ground staff reached the field, the scene was devastating. Sheffen's parachutes were found partially deployed and tangled, his body lying among the flattened stalks of corn. Paramedics were called, but it was too late. He had fallen 4,000 meters to his death. The roar of the wind filled the air as Dwyn Weston, one of the world's most daring base jumpers and skydivers, soared above the Royal Gorge Bridge in Colorado. It was October 5th, 2003, the annual Go Fast Games, where some of the best aerial stunt performers gathered to push the limits of human flight. Weston, a 30-year-old, performed a stunt few would ever attempt, a high-speed wingsuit flight directly over the bridge. Dressed in his black wingsuit, Weston leapt from a plane flying over the canyon, spreading his arms and legs to glide gracefully through the air. Below him, spectators watched in AWE as he descended towards the bridge, the world's highest suspension bridge, at over 950 feet above the Arkansas River. Everything went perfectly. Weston's form was flawless, his flight smooth and steady. But as he approached the bridge, the powerful winds swirling through the canyon began to shift. In that instant, a tiny miscalculation in distance and wind speed became fatal. Traveling at more than 120 miles per hour, Weston came in lower than expected. Weston clipped the bridge steel railing, the impact tearing through his body. His wingsuit shredded instantly. For a brief moment, his parachute deployed. But it was too late. The impact had left him with catastrophic injuries, and the partially opened canopy only slowed his fall slightly before he struck a rock face below. Rescue crews rushed to the bottom of the gorge, but Weston was gone. Roger Nelson, a veteran of the skies, known for his skills, experience, and passion.
Tense, and they get trapped inside their head and they can't even see. They're afraid to move their head, and just gotta relax your shoulders and keep your elbows down, and you won't backslide like that.
He was a legend in the sport, the founder of Skydrive Chicago, and a respected mentor to countless jumpers who had followed in his footsteps. It was supposed to be another routine jump in one of his long and remarkable careers. Roger exited the aircraft smoothly, his movements steady and confident as he stepped out into the open air. The dive unfolded perfectly, his parachute deployed cleanly, and he began his controlled descent towards the landing zone. Below, dozens of canopies floated gracefully against the blue sky, but in those final moments, a split-second mistake changed everything. As Roger descended towards the landing area, another jumper approached from a nearby direction. Both were under the canopy, preparing to land, but their paths unexpectedly converged. Before either could react, the two parachutes collided midair. The impact caused Roger's parachute to collapse, causing him to lose control. He fell approximately 50 feet before hitting the ground with great force. Medics on site rushed to his aid, but his injuries were severe. Despite every effort to save him, Roger Nelson was pronounced dead shortly after the incident. Olga Urshova. The excitement was unmistakable that morning. For 49-year-old Olga Urshova, it was a day she had been looking forward to for weeks. Her very first skydiving experience. Like so many first-time jumpers, Olga was nervous but eager, ready to feel the thrill of free fall for the very first time. As the plane climbed thousands of feet above the drop zone, she sat among the other jumpers, listening carefully to her instructor's final reminders. Every safety measure had been reviewed: the main parachute, the reserve, the landing position, and emergency procedures. When the aircraft reached altitude, the door opened to the roar of rushing wind. Her heart raced. Then came the moment she had dreamed of. Olga stepped from the plane, the world below opening beneath her. For the first few seconds, she experienced the breathtaking freedom of flight. But in an instant, that wonder turned to terror. When she pulled her main parachute, nothing happened. The canopy didn't open. Instructors on the ground and in the air noticed the malfunction immediately and began shouting emergency instructions, urging her to deploy her reserve chute. But Olga, disoriented and panicking in free fall, struggled to find and pull the reserve handle in time. Still, her reserve parachute never deployed. Instructors watched helplessly as she continued to fall, the ground rising rapidly beneath her. Moments later, Olga collided with a birch tree before hitting the ground. Emergency teams rushed to the scene, and she was quickly taken for medical care, but her injuries were severe. Despite efforts to save her life, Olga Urshova was pronounced dead. Dmitry Didenko, a highly experienced skydiver, was taking part in a wingsuit performance event in Australia. Known for his precision, calmness, and daring skill, Dmitry had completed hundreds of successful jumps, but this one would tragically be his last. The conditions were ideal. Dmitry and his team prepared to leap. With a confident nod, he exited the plane, spreading his wingsuit and gliding effortlessly through the open sky. Spectators below could see him craving a smooth path through the air, maintaining beautiful control as he descended toward the designated deployment zone. Then, everything took a dark turn. As Dmitry reached the altitude to deploy his parachute, his canopy began to open, but only partially. Instead of inflating properly, the parachute twisted and collapsed almost instantly. For a few desperate seconds, it fluttered above him, offering little to no resistance. Those watching from the ground realized what was happening, but could do nothing about it. The malfunction sent Dmitry into an uncontrolled fall as he descended towards the ground at devastating velocity. The impact was immediate and fatal. Paramedics and rescue teams rushed to the site, but there was nothing they could do. The spectators, fellow competitors, and event staff stood in stunned silence. A man who had spent his life mastering the art of flight had been taken in a matter of seconds. Jasmine Black, an experienced jumper who enjoyed routine jumping. Confident and skilled, she had completed countless descents before, navigating the skies with precision. As Jasmine descended, executing a controlled approach towards the landing area, an unexpected hazard appeared. Another jumper's canopy drifted into her path. In a split second, the two parachutes collided, tangling and destabilizing Jasmine's descent. She reacted immediately, cutting away her main chute in an attempt to regain control. But the mistake had already cost her precious seconds. When she reached for her reserve parachute, it deployed too late. The emergency canopy provided minimal deceleration, leaving her to fall at a dangerously high speed. Despite the emergency crew's immediate response, she could not be saved. Every case you've heard tonight was real. and there are more buried beneath the surface. Subscribe so you don't miss what's next on the iceberg.